Hi, welcome to Petradot. In the previous lesson, we talked about arithmetic operators and assignment operators. So in this lesson, we are going to continue from where we stopped, and that is the comparison operator. All right, so the comparison operators are used to compare two values together or check the relationship between two variables. Examples of comparison operators include the equal to, the not equal to, the greater than, the less than, the greater than or equal to, then less than or equal to. So we use this most times whenever we want to check if there is any relationship between two values, just like I said, whether one is bigger than the other or one is less than the other, or they are equal or not equal. And the result of each comparison uh, brings up a value that is a boolean. Yes, it results to a boolean. So if we are to compare two values, the result you are going to get at the end is going to be a boolean value. So let us test run gives with some examples. Say for example, we want to compare these two values to see if they are equal. So we can declare a variable, a boolean variable. Say num1 is equal to num2, and we'll have something like this. So let's print out the result and see what it looks like. Num1 equal to num2. So let's concatenate the results here. All right, so let's run this program and see what is going to happen. All right, we can see that the result says num1 equal to num2 is false because 12 and 15 are not equal, and that is the equal operator. All right, let us test that of not equal to. The not equal to is used to check if the two variables are not equal to each other. So let's test run and see. Boolean num1 not equal to num2. All right, let's print out the result and see. Num1 is not equal to num2. All right, then we'll pass the variable. All right, let's run this and see. All right, we can see this now. Num1 is not equal to num2 returns true because 12 is not equal to 15. Let's check greater than and see. Let's test run greater than. Then boolean num1 is greater than num2. All right, so let's print out the result and see. Okay, so let's save, then run the program and see. We can see that it returns false because 12 is never greater than 15 because our num1 is 12 while num2 is 15. So 12 is not greater than 15, hence why it says num1 greater than num2 will return false. All right, so let's check for greater than or equal to, or let's just go ahead with the next one. Boolean num1 is less than num2. Let's print out the result. All right, run the program. Then you see num1 less than num2 is true. Yes, because 12 is less than 15. So let's check for greater than or equal to. Greater than or equal to is saying if num1 is greater than num2 or equal to num2, then print out true. That is what, let's write that and see. Num1 greater than or equal to num2. What this is trying to say is if num1 is greater and or equal to num2, then that means our result here is going to be true. Else is going to be what? False. And at this point, num1 is never greater than 15 and it is not equal to 15. Hence, our result should be returning false. So let's print out the result and see. Num1 greater than or equal to num2. Alright, save. You see, it is false, returning false as our result. So let's check for num1 less than or equal to. So this should be able to return true because we said num1 less than or equal to num2 should return true. Why? Because num1 is less than num2. The expression here says if it is less than or equal to num2, then return true. So first of all, it has checked, is it less than num2? Yes. Is it equal to num2? No, but it is less than num2. So meaning it can still return true. So let's print out our result and see. Alright, so let's run this program and see. I think I've not saved. Alright. Num1 less than or equal to num2 is true. Alright, and that is all about our comparison operators. So right now, let us talk about logical operators. But before that, let's comment all this. So we can comment all. So now let's talk about logical operators. But before that, let's define two booleans that we're going to use to explain. Boolean condition 1 is equal to true, then boolean condition 2 should be false. Let me collapse all here, so we have only these two. All right, so what are logical operators? The logical operators are used to compare two boolean conditions. Yes, you used to check the left side and the right hand side of two boolean conditions. So for example, we have logical operators which include the and sign, this is logical and, then the logical or, and then the logical not. These are the three logical operators we have, and just like I said, they are used to weigh the left hand side and right hand side of two conditions to compare the two. If there is to check the relationship between the two conditions. For example, now let's say we want to check if condition 1 and condition 2 are true. If both are true, that is only time it will return true. That is for the logical AND. So the logical AND checks if the two conditions are true, meaning that the two conditions must be true for it to be able to return true, right? So for example, boolean both are true, condition 1 and condition 2. So if our adventure that any of the condition is false means both are true will return false. So let us print out the result and see. Alright, so let's run this program. You can see here both are true are returning false because condition 2 is false. But imagine that condition 2 is true. Let's see what the result will be. It returns true. So the logical AND is checking to make sure that the two conditions must be true for this variable to have the value of true, else it's going to be a false. And that is what the logical AND operator is doing. So why the logical OR will return true if one of the condition is true. Yes, all it just needs is for just one condition to be true for the expression to be true. So let's test run boolean any is true, condition 1 or condition 2, right? So let's print out the results. So what are we going to be expecting? The result here should be expecting true because both sides are already true, and even if I make one false, it's going to still return true. So let us run the program and see. You can see that it is returning true. All are true. Okay, I said or instead of any, it's supposed to be any is true. All right, so but our result still returned true because one of the condition is true. But imagine that one of the both of the conditions are false. What would the result be? Let's run it and see. You can see that they are both, any is true, returned false because none is true, and that is what the logical OR does. Logical OR checks that one of the condition must be true for this variable to become true, else it's going to be false. All right, why the logical NOT? The logical NOT operator is used to invert the result of a particular expression. For example, any is true if I pass not to it. Okay, let's leave this. Let me use this condition, this particular condition. If I pass not, if I attach not to this not condition 1, which is false, automatically what will return for me is true. That is, it's going to invert the result of false from false to what? True. That is what the logical NOT does. So let us print a result, print something like that on the screen and see. System.out.println not condition 1 is going to be not condition 1. All right, so this is used to invert the result. That is, this logical NOT is going to invert the result of condition 1. Currently condition 1 is what? False. But what are we going to see on the screen when we print it? It should be showing us true as our output. Let's run and see. You can see it here. Not condition 1 returns true. And if condition 1 is false, true initially, what is it going to? It's going to invert this true to false and return false for us. Let's run it and see. You can see this now. So it's now returning false for us. Not condition 1 is returning false. All right, that is all about our logical operators, right? So then the next one we are going to do is the ternary operator. The ternary operator is a short form of an if statement. Yes, if statement is one of the lessons we are going to be taking in the future time, but because it's under operator, we need to explain it. Then when we get to that stage, we'll now explain it better. You might use the if statement to understand it. But to give a brief highlight of it, the if statement allows you to carry out a particular action depending on a particular condition. For example, if Obi is a boy, print Obi, else print Ada, right? Something like that. So this ternary operators is used to shorten this particular expression in just a single line and use it to assign a variable to a particular, assign a value to a particular variable. For example, we have an integer score equal to 50, and we say for anyone who scores 50 and above gets a grade of A. But if the person gets below 50, then the person is going to get a grade of C. So we are going to use a ternary operator to explain this. And what is the formula for this ternary operator? The formula is condition is true, question mark, if condition is true, if is true, then value if true, else value if false. You see, so what it's trying to say is this will be our condition on the left hand side here. Then by this center here, after the question mark, you give the result. What should be the result whenever it is true? You pass it here. But what is the result whenever it is false? Should be passed here after the colon. So let's follow the formula and see. So we define a variable where this will be stored. But before that, let's just write the condition before we pass it to the variable, which is score is greater than 50. And this is our condition, right? Question mark. If it is greater than 50, A, our grade will be A. Else, let the grade be what? C. Then we'll close. So let's now pass it to a variable. That is why it's showing an error, not a statement, right? So we are going to define a string. Since it's a single character, let's define it as car grade equal to. So let's change this to a character. Exactly. So what it's going to do here is this will check if it is greater than 50, greater than or equal to, less greater than or equal to. If it is greater or equal to 50, we are going to have A as our grade. Else is going to assign C as our grade. So let's print out the result and see what is going to show. System.out.println grade is. Alright, let's run this program. You can see that our grade is what? A, because our score is equal to 50. Yes, it is not greater than 50, but it is what? Equal to 50. Hence, our ternary, we have used our ternary operator here to assign the value of grade A to our grade variable because the condition here was met. It is true. Now imagine that this is 40. Let's see what is going to happen. Let's print the result again. You can see that our grade is C, right? And that is all about the ternary operator, right? So, and we are going to be ending here. So in our next lesson, we are going to be talking about the bitwise operator. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.